Crash Course. Good day! Today we will discuss about anthropometry. What is anthropometry? Anthropometry was derived from the Greek word anthros, meaning man, metre, meaning to measure. The definition of anthropometry is the study of human body measurement. It is used to help scientists and anthropologists understand the physical variations among the humans. Anthropometrics are useful for a wide array of applications, providing a kind of baseline for human measurement. Typically, body measurements used in anthropometric includes height, weight, body mass index, waist to hip ratio, and the body fat percentage. By studying the differences in the measurements among the human researchers, can assess risk factors for a host of diseases. Anthropometrics data. Collection of anthropometric data. Mechanical measurement, tapes, scales, calipers, anthropometer. Photographical use of mock-up or simulated computerized automated methods. Anthropometric data includes anatomical limits to movement, limit of reach, static body dimension, static force of capabilities, endurance capabilities. The types of anthropometrics. First one is static anthropometry, and the second one is dynamic anthropometry. Static anthropometry. Measurement of the body dimensions taken with the body in standard and scale. Example, height of person, shoulder, breadth, and length of arm. Dynamic anthropometry. Distance are measured when the body is in motion or functional engaged in a physical activity. Portrait parler. Portrait parler. These two French words mean speaking likeness. Portrait parler can be defined as a rigorous system for a verbal description of the physical characteristic of the subject. It is based on the Bertillon method of the criminal identification and measurement of the human body and is still in practice today to some extent. A distinct description of every feature of the face, head, and especially valuable for investigation, especially when set of the suspect fingerprints is not available in his life. History of portrait parler. In 1882, Alfonso Bertillon, also called the father of the scientific detection, said that anthropology could be invoked to aid in the sight of recognition and identification of criminals. Employing this method of scientific description, he worked at a system of identification utilizing skeletal measurements which are practically unchanged after maturity and are not affected by increase or loss of weight. According to his classification provided as a basis for modern recall system that would aid the artist in producing sketches as well as the development of composite kits, catalogs, and computer systems. Originally, he meant for catalog to be an identification aid for recognition of a local prisoners, but later it was found to be useful for obtaining description of unknown suspects also. Advance of Bertillon. Whereas the anthropometric system made it possible to distinguish between two distinct individuals, it did not bring irrefutable proof of an individual's identity. While not fully managing to fix the major flaw, Bertillon designed an incremental physical description card, also called the Bertillon card, comprising of 4 areas. Anthropometry, a PG enriched with a new topological description of ear, nose, and iris. An incremental, a detailed physical description method which formed the basis for portrait parler. Photographic description, which is continually enhanced by defining a general protocol for face. An inventory and precise mapping of all specific marks to be found on the body, scars, tattoos, moles, and the like. The Bertillon card included spaces for description of the prisoners. They are eyes, lips, hair color, ethnicity, nose, general contour of head, eyebrows, mouth, attitude, ears, beard, skin color, forehead, chin, hair growth pattern, eyeball or orbit, neck, voice, language, habiliments, and also inclination of the shoulders. This picture is the example of Bertillon cards. 25 traits described in Bertillon card. They are gender, chin shape, hair type, color of eyebrows, eyebrow placement, eyes distance apart, eye shape, mouth size, nose, nostril shape, ear pits, chin freckles, hair color, and also face shape, skin color, windows peak, eyebrow thickness, eye color, eye size, eyelash length, lip thickness, nose shape, earlobe attachment, hair ears, and also the forehead freckles. Forensic odontology. Forensic odontologists are highly experienced, especially trained dentists who use their expertise to help identify unknown remains and trademark to specific individual. The forensic odontology may be called into by the police officers, the medical examiner, or the coroner. In that cases, the forensic odontologists attend the autopsy and take photographs, criminal measurements, dental impression, x-rays from the remains. Introduction to forensic odontology. Forensics means pertaining to applicable to personal injury, murder, and other legal proceedings. While the forensic dentistry is that branch of dentistry that deals with the application of the art and science of dentistry to the purpose of law. The teeth may be unique as a fingerprint. Teeth are least destructible for the part of the human body. The mouth provides a library from which information can be extracted at any time for a considerable period after death. Extensive restorative procedures may be unwittingly be carrying their visiting cards in their oral cavity. Need for forensic odontology. Identification of found of human remains. Identification in mass fatalities. Assessment of bite marks injuries. The mouth provides a library from which information can be extracted at any time for a considerable. And the last is the extensive restorative procedure may be unwittingly be carrying the visiting cards in their oral activity. Contents of this presentation. First one is age estimation, sex race estimation, identification using blood groups, bite marks, mass disaster, identification by dentures and restoration, and also child abuse. Collecting the evidence. To determine if the items such as dentures, crowns, etc. missing from the body for which a search must be made. This is the example of dental identification. This picture is identification of the dead, while the next picture is the general examination and oral features. Forensic anthropology. Forensic anthropology is a special subfield of physical anthropology, the study of human remains, that involves applying the skeletal analysis and techniques in archaeology to solving criminal cases. When human remains or a suspected burial are found, forensic anthropologists are called upon to gather information from the bones and their recovery context to determine who died, how they died, and how long ago they died. Forensic anthropologists specialize in analyzing hard tissue
such as bones. In addition, the study of skeletonized human remains, the time of death, anthropology tried to establish the identity and the cause of death of an individual. Forensic anthropology can possibly identify the following: age, sex, race, height, pathologies that may be present, whether trauma is evident. Age is determined by the analyzing the development of the teeth, bone growth, cranial structure lines, and the length of the specific bones, just as the femur. While the sex is determined by the examining the skulls, pelvis, humerus, and femur. While the race determined by the analyzing the skull or characteristics that are common among the people of different races. Facial reconstruction. Forensic facial reconstruction is the method of the reconstructing the living face of an individual from the skeletal remains to aid identification. Initially, the skull is cleaned of any remaining tissue in preparation for the reconstruction. And the last one is the physical anthropology. Physical anthropology primarily concerned with the humans as a biological species, most closely related to the natural sciences. Major research areas: human evolution, modern human variation. Subdisciplines: paleoanthropology, primatology, forensics, and genetics. The second to the last is the forensic serology. Forensic serology is the detection, classification, and study of various bodily fluids such as blood, semen, feces, and perspiration, and their relationship to a crime scene. A forensic serologist may also involve in DNA analysis and blood stain pattern analysis. The forensic characterization of a blood stains. The first one is preliminary test, or aka presumptive of color test. A positive result is not conclusive that the stain is blood, but negative result is conclusive that the stain is not a blood. While the confirmatory test, the actual proof that a stain is a blood consists in establish the presence of the characteristic blood, pigment, hemoglobin, or one of its derivatives. Blood typing. Blood typing involves determination of the antigens present on the individual's red blood cells, discovered by the Karl Landstedt. Blood antigens on the surface of red blood cells are chemical structures called antigens. Human red blood cells have more than 15 different antigens types that have been discovered. Blood typing. When the blood typing containing a specific antigen is mixed with the blood containing the corresponding antibodies, the blood clots. The blood clots can then removed by the host of system. Blood typing separately mix a drop of unknown blood sample with a drop of each antiserum, while the separately mix a drop of the unknown blood sample a drop of each antiserum. The last one is the DNA fingerprinting. DNA fingerprinting is a test to identify and evaluate the genetic information called DNA in a particular human cell. It is called the fingerprinting because it is very unlikely that any two people would have exactly the same DNA information. The test is used to determine whatever a family relationship exists between the two people to identify organisms causing disease to solve the crime. The chemical structure of every human's DNA is the same. The only differences between the people is the order of the base pair. There are millions of base pairs in each person's DNA, and every person has different sequence. It is the difference in a sequence of DNA which make every individual unique in their phenotypic appearance. DNA fingerprinting is the very quick to compare the DNA sequence of any two individuals. DNA fingerprinting involves identifying differences in the sum of specific regions in DNA sequence called as a repetitive DNA, because in this sequence, a small stretch of DNA is repeated many times. These repeated DNA are repeated from the Book of Genomic. DNA has a different peaks during density gradient centrifugation. Alec Jeffrey. Alec Jeffrey is the inventor of the process DNA fingerprinting by the University of Leicester in 1985. He was knighted in 1994.